Hello, my name is Brian Wogan of the Tea Time with Brian Wogan series of interviews of amazing people. Recently, I had a chance to sit down and speak with Avner the Eccentric, or Avner Eisenberg, and he is an individual with a very long and storied performing career with a tremendous amount of knowledge in a lot of different areas. So it's very difficult to do an interview series with him and narrow it down. But in this interview, there were a couple key takeaways that I got from it. And one of it was developing empathy or having empathy for a character and performing. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, okay, I don't perform, so this isn't very critical to me. But think about the next time you give a speech, or you have to address your coworkers, or you have to make a sale. In sales would be rapport, creating rapport with the person. But I mean, ultimately, if you include empathy in that, meaning that you actually, the person you're dealing with has concern for you, it'll make the message go through much better, and ultimately it'll end up having them remember you, and maybe not necessarily the act or the specific words that you presented, but you'll come out favorably. So I think that is a key takeaway. Another applicable aspect of what he said was when he was talking about fear and how to overcome it for performing. But ultimately, this really, again, relates to everything else we do in life, in that the fear is you're afraid that what you do, and I'm using his words, that what you do will suck. But the interesting part isn't so much on the person who's having to give the presentation or the speech, but that it's also a fear of the audience watching it. And I'll leave it to him to describe that better, but it was an amazing takeaway. So with those two key takeaways, and there were many others, I would like to end this and get us to the interview where Avner Eisenberg, or Mr. Eisenberg, gives an amazing speech. Mr. Eisenberg, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. And I wanted to start this off with a story because when my coworker found out that I was interviewing you, she's from Maine. And I think this will be funny because ultimately I believe that's what this whole conversation will be about, is basically storytelling in one way or another. She was working at the theater at Colby College up in Maine. And you were actually the performer at the time. You had a puppet apparently, and you were going. And so beforehand, going over the stage process, you said you would do this, this, and this, and then the puppet would like do the splits, and then she was to turn off the lights to the show. So you were up on stage performing, and she was up there enjoying the show and not paying attention, and the puppet did the splits, and the lights were still on. And then apparently the puppet did the splits again, and the lights were still on, to which the puppet yelled out, "Turn off the lights."
I think that must have been someone else. I don't use a puppet in my show.
Well, not even, because this was a long time ago, though.
No, never.
Are you serious?
Uh, I, I'm very serious. I was a puppeteer a long, long time ago, but never in Maine. I toured with a puppet troupe out of Atlanta when I was between years studying at the Lecoq School in Paris. And I love puppets, and I do some teaching and directing with puppets, but I never used one in my show. So I wonder who that was.
Yeah, I do too now, because that completely ruined the joke. I thought that was funny because
I also wouldn't say that. I always work silently.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things I was hoping we could go over tonight, is the aspect of silent comedy, because to me it's amazing to think that you can have a performance that is silent and still convey a message or a story with the audience interaction. Could you kind of explain kind of the background behind that?
Well, a long time ago, when I was teaching at the Del Arte School, so it had to be 75, 76, I was just starting to get a show together. And I remember I had a 2-night booking at the Cultural Arts Center in Eureka, California. And I did the show one night with some speaking numbers that I had been working on, and I did it the next night without any speaking. And Carlo, who was the founder of the Del Arte School in Blue Lake, and who was kind of my mentor, I was working for him teaching at the school. And And the next day he said, well, you, when you work silently, something very magical happens with the audience that doesn't happen when you're speaking. And he gave me the advice to work on the silent act. Later, when I was starting to get interested in neuroscience, I realized that when you do a silent show, well, let's put it this way: when you're speaking, the part of the brain that processes speech, it's sort of like the sun comes out and you can't see the stars anymore.
Okay.
When you can't latch onto that logical construction of speech, the brain processes a lot more interesting and varied inputs. So it's not so much storytelling in a narrative sense. There's always a story going on, but it, I think, gives a kind of a richer performance, and really there's nothing to say. I don't think there's anything in my show that would have been better or more efficiently communicated by speaking.
Okay, and that concludes our interview. The rest of it will be silent. Now, for me, because I do not know, is there a difference between clowning and like physical comedy or theater, or are they the same thing?
I teach a lot of workshops. Used to call it clowning, but I now call them all eccentric performing,
Okay.
because it's so much more inclusive of everything from people who consider themselves clowns to variety performers, legitimate actors, public speakers, and have even had some HR people from various corporations come to the workshop. I was teaching a workshop in Brazil, a couple of years ago, and there was a clown convention in town. And so the whole class, there were about 20 of us, went over to the gala performance at the end of the convention. And the next morning when we got together at the workshop, I said, so what'd you guys think? And there was a general consensus. There were a lot of clowns in the show, but very little clowning. And I've come to the conclusion that there's, in a sense, no such thing as a clown. There are people that dress up like clowns, that use what they think is clown makeup, but they're not doing any clowning. And then you've got who I consider the great clowns, Chaplin, Keaton, W.C. Fields, Marx Brothers, who are clowning all the time and brilliantly, and not one of them would be identified as a clown by an observer from the outside. So I think clowning is a series of attitudes, techniques that can be used to create humorous situations. Yeah.
Well, I just asked because I was curious as to your take on the red nose, the white face paint, and all that kind of stuff. Whether you perceive that to be purely clowning or a broader field, and I think you answered that it's much broader.
Those are interesting stories. The white face, I used to get a lot of mimes. There aren't any mimes in the world anymore, but I trained in mime at the Lecoq School. And whenever someone comes in with white face or any makeup, really, my first question is, why are you wearing that? And often they don't have a reason. They'll say, well, because I'm a mime. So, well, why do mimes wear it? And in fact, historically, the white-face mime that Marcel Marceau made popular is derived from the character of Devereaux, who is portrayed by Jean-Louis Barrault so brilliantly in the film The Children of Paradise. And he's a kind of a Pierrot character And he's based on the character Pulcinella from the Commedia dell'arte. Pulcinella is the one with the white, with the big sleeves, which if you know the film The Children of Paradise, if you don't, you must go and watch it. It's absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, he was the baker's assistant in the village of the Commedia dell'arte. And he was a little slow, very romantic, and he always had flour on his face. And that's the origin of the white face. The red nose is a much more interesting story. Do you have a minute?
In fact, I do.
I think if you had to create a kind of international road sign for a clown, it would be the red nose,
Yeah.
and possibly big shoes.
Okay.
And this is a very interesting story because it points us to the psychological need for the clown in the world of the circus. Now, the circus is the world of the virtuoso.
Yeah.
Circus performers do things that can't be done.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They go up onto a high wire 30 feet in the air and walk on a little steel cable. They go into a cage full of lions. They do things that, yeah. And we know from the study of drama that we need to have empathy with at least one character in a play. Otherwise, it's just spectacle.
Okay.
So if you think about it, there's always someone, there's the flawed cowboy who says, I'll head him off at the pass. And his girlfriend says, no, don't do it. They'll kill you. And he goes, no, I'll do it. And sure enough, they're waiting for him and it's an ambush. And Romeo and Juliet, he says, I'll kill myself. And you want to stand up in the audience and say, don't do it. Just once. Listen to me. This is not going to end well. Don't do it. But he does anyway. And we take those emotions home with us. That's what we remember.
Okay.
But the circus being the world of the virtuoso, we're just observers. Now, in the history of the world, nothing on earth moved faster than a horse could walk until the middle of the 1800s.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that in the 1800s was the invention of the steam engine, the Industrial Revolution, and more particularly the railroad. So before that time, the big populations were not centered in cities. There was nothing to be done in a city. There were no big factories. Everything was handwork. And the population was on small farms. And I imagine where you are in Greece, it's still very much that way. Where there are little farms, and I bet every farm has a horse or a donkey or a mule, which is, yes, they do?
Goats and sheep for sure.
Yeah, but to do the work, to get their crops to market, to drive the grindstone, that was the engine. And every farm kid knew for sure you don't stand up on a horse, and they all had broken arms to prove it. Okay. Now, the earliest circus, and circus just means circle. Coming from ancient Rome, the first circuses were horse shows. This is where people would go around, and what did they do on these horses? They stood on them. They did acrobatics on them. They juggled on them. They risked their lives for our amusement. Now, we couldn't relate to that in an empathetic way. Okay. So there developed a character who would wander into the circus ring and almost get knocked down by the horses, grab a horse by the tail and get pulled around, jump on the horse backwards. You'd recognize this character. And the word clown, it comes from an old Danish word that simply means country person. So this guy was like an itinerant farm worker as a character. He was not clean, he was uneducated, he was a laborer, and he had a certain lack of inhibition that allowed him to walk into the ring. Now, what is it in our culture that removes inhibition? Alcohol. And what's the symbol of alcoholism? The red nose. Okay. That's why clowns wear red noses.
That's really
I know it's not true. but it's what I believe.
Say that again. It's not true, but it's what I believe.
Yeah.
I love it.
Now, the other two pieces of the sort of symbolism of the clown
Okay.
are the big shoes.
Okay.
The same thing. You go to any of the clowns around, you say, "Why are you wearing big shoes?" They say, "Well, clowns wear big shoes." You think, "Yeah, I know, but why?" They have no idea.
Okay.
And you find the answer rooted also in the history. Do you know that there were no ready-made size clothes in the United States until the Civil War?
No,
Nobody manufactured clothing. It
really.
was all made at home, and there were no sizes. And everybody wore what was called homespun, and it was gray or brown. The only people who could afford to have colorful clothing were rich people. And in fact, I just found out, I've always wondered, have you ever noticed that men's and women's shirts button the opposite way?
No, I never did.
Well, they do. If you look at your wife's clothing, you'll see that the buttons, so our buttons, men's buttons are on the left side, on the right side,
Okay.
and you button it, so you hold the buttonhole with your left hand and your right hand manipulates. Take a woman's blouse and put it on and try to button it. You'll find out that you're all thumbs. Why? Because rich people had dressers. So the buttons are on the other side, so the person standing in front of you could manipulate the button the easiest way.
That is so weird. Okay.
Yeah. The same thing about shoes. Shoes were handmade. People could not afford shoes. So where did this poor farm worker get his shoes?
Hand me down.
And he found discarded shoes that had holes in them.
Ah,
And you pick up shoes that are too small for you. You got shoes that were too big and then stuffed rags in them.
huh.
Found colorful clothing that had been ripped or torn or discarded by wealthy people. And that's why the image of the clown are these big, overly worn shoes and torn and patched clothing. And that completes the picture of the clown and gives us a much more interesting socioeconomic analysis of what the clown looked like, but also that role when the circus performer shows up in spangled tights and says, "I'm going to walk on the tightrope, I'm going to do a backflip on that horse," we go, "Okay, go ahead, go for it." But when this poor farm worker, slightly inebriated, walks into the ring, we go, "Oh no, don't, because he's one of us.
Okay.
He's our proxy in the circus ring."
So then the question I would have to ask is, as one of the other circus performers, say you're the juggler or the acrobat, uh, do you necessarily want to create empathy with the audience, or do you want to be more skills focused and leave that to the clown to create in between acts?
I've been thinking about this question a lot. Skill-based performers, and I work mostly in the variety arts, but a lot of circus performers come to the workshop. The attitude of many skill-based performers, magicians, jugglers, acrobats, is, "I can do this, you can't, therefore you should watch me." And frankly, nobody wants to spend a lot of time with a person like that.
Okay.
So it's very important for the skill-based performer to find an attitude toward the performing that allows the audience to have a sympathetic, well, an empathetic relationship.
Okay.
If a juggler is perfect and never drops, if they drop something, it's a tragedy. If a comedy juggler drops, it's part of the whole deal.
Okay. I just say that because to me, when I juggle or recreationally, not professionally, but when I think about it, the acts I like the least are the ones where they just come out and they just start immediately juggling and they do their X number of tricks and then they, exit. Where I don't know if you've ever seen a juggler. I'm gonna probably screw up his name, but Fred Company Pock. he performed
Oh,
at
Pepsi
the.
Pop. Yeah, he's a friend.
Oh,
He's
really?
marvelous. Oh, he's just the best.
His act at the FISM, the Magic Championship
Okay.
show, was
Were you,
unbelievable.
were you there?
No, it's on YouTube,
Oh,
thankfully.
okay.
It it is so brilliant because he. We'll have to go into this later on the physical aspects and everything, but he has like this whole routine where he comes in, and I don't think he literally starts juggling or doing any juggling until maybe like a minute or two or a couple into it. And then he's got like some stage prop tricks with the table and his case and his hat. It is by far one of my favorite routines ever. And and I'm not being critical when I say it's not like super complicated and technical. I mean, it's technical and good, but it's just it's so beautiful that it's by far
I
one of my
agree.
favorites.
It's one of my all-time favorite acts.
Okay.
He's wonderful. And if you think about it, his attitude is, I'm just waiting here, and it's okay if you want to watch me. I'm comfortable with that. He's not trying to please us, he's trying to please himself. And we're so happy when he does please himself.
Yes. I think that's a great comment because it does almost seem the way he portrays it as if, oh, I have some balls. I wonder what I can do with them. You know, then all of a sudden it rolls off the table and it bounces, and it's like, hey, that was neat. It's
He's
very,
constantly marveling at what the balls will do.
perfect. Yes. Yeah.
So he's got this sense of, well, that was neat. Ooh, I wonder what happens if I throw it under the table. And it's even neater. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's beautifully, perfectly constructed act. And he's one of the nicest guys in the world.
Well, that's neat that you know him and you have that background. So that's amazing. Uh, so okay, in the creation of empathy, so you've got the performer trying to give you a reason why you should pay attention and be interested in what they're doing.
No,
Uh,
he's not trying. I disagree.
well,
He's
you,
not
okay.
trying to give you. See, I've asked students for years because I've seen them doing numbers that should be funny that weren't.
Okay.
And I started wondering about this and realizing that the overriding emotion that was overriding and a kind of undercurrent, the basic emotion that they were communicating to me was fear. And I started asking students, what's going on? You look scared. What are you afraid of? What's your basic emotional state? I'm also a hypnotherapist, and I started asking them using hypnotic language, which was a way of regressing them to the moment before they go on stage. So in their imaginations, okay, I'm backstage, I'm ready to walk on stage. What right there? What are you feeling? And what they said is, I hope it doesn't suck.
Probably true enough. Yeah.
And I started asking them, well, what's your feeling when you go to a show and you're sitting in the audience before the show starts? And the answer, I hope it doesn't suck.
I never thought about it, but you're right. You do want a good show.
You want a good show and you've been burned before and you're sitting at FISM, as I was, and they say, and now here's a juggler. And you could hear the air go out of the balloon, the collective balloon of the audience of, oh, the juggler, crap. They just want to see card tricks. Well, he got a standing ovation at FISM. It was electric, but it started from, oh no.
That's the part you don't
So
get out of the video.
what's that?
That's the part you don't appreciate from the video. So that's neat.
So you've got two groups of people, the performers and the audience. They're terrified of each other.
Okay.
And what are they afraid of? Both of them. They're terrified of not being interesting.
Okay.
That's our big fear as performers. The audiences are going to go, God, this is boring, and get up and walk out.
Now, let's relate that to the non-stage performing aspect. So say you're in a meeting and you have to give a presentation. Wouldn't you say that you still have the same dynamic going on between yourself a fear that you're going to suck when you give your presentation on whatever topic, and the
Absolutely.
audience going, oh no.
Well, there's this subconscious fear. You're at the meeting, you have to give the talk. They're at the meeting, they have to listen to the report. No
Yeah.
one has a choice on that. People don't remember the tricks that you did. They remember that they liked you.
Really?
Well, you remember how much you liked Fred. You don't
Yeah.
remember there was something with a table. There was something with a hat.
Okay, yeah. And I don't remember which exact bounce routine he was doing. Yeah.
No,
Okay,
and then you might be able to recreate it, but what about this show? Should I go see it? And your answer is there you go. Enthusiastic. Yes. Why? What am I going to see? Oh, well, he's really happy to be doing it.
he sure doesn't look it though. That's what makes it so great.
No, he's puzzled by the whole thing. So the same is true for public speaking and business meetings, is that you have to let people know that you're comfortable with them watching you. That fear, that goes back to part of what makes us human, which is part of the animal kingdom. And it's the first part of the freeze, fight, or flight response. Your body is saying, when you're getting up to, like in a business meeting, your body is saying, oh God, I wish I was anyplace else on earth.
Yeah.
Why didn't I just print this and give them a handout?
Or do better in school.
So it's very important that you find techniques, and it's based in breathing, to be comfortable being there and being comfortable that people are watching you. When I coach public speakers, one of the very first things I do, and sometimes this is enough, it's come out, stand there, do a full breath cycle.
Okay.
Full breath in, full breath out before you speak. And you know what they say? Oh, but that'll take so long.
No. What, half a second, maybe at the most?
At the most.
Yeah, I've heard other people say the exact same thing, that literally just to stop and inhale and exhale a large breath, for some reason, seems to work wonders. And I think that's kind of amazing.
It's not just for some reason. This is based and developed, and it's what we call the freeze, fight, or flight response. And it's our basic interface with the world. That we were basically prey animals. So we'd be walking around in Africa. The grass on the savannah is about waist high. It's exactly the same color as the coat of a lion.
Okay.
And the same color as many little animals, little deer that would make a good meal for our little village. And so all the grass is going the same way, and all of a sudden one piece goes the wrong way. Our nervous system, there are no words for this. The nervous system goes,
Yeah.
it's a sharp inhale, and you're not aware of it. It's
Okay.
just that. The body is ready to fight if you're going to collect an animal for a meal, or to run away. The problem, or let it go, because 99 times out of 100, it's nothing.
Okay.
So, we do this all the time. When you're walking down the street on the sidewalk, and you're thinking to yourself, you have your target on the other side of the street. Well, if there's not traffic, I mean, then it's a different kind of intellectual exercise. Your brain, through your eyes, scans the street, finds out what movement there is, and calculates if you can step into the street or not.
Okay.
Stepping into the street is the fighting part, and going, oh no, can't go, is the running away part. Or, nope, I just have to wait. And you let the air go out. The problem that happens when you go on stage is you get the first part and you don't let it go. And these people, if you think that the body really tells the story, these people are on stage, these comedian clowns in the workshops, and their bodies are saying, get me out of here. I don't want to be here. And they're conscious brain is saying, shut up. I paid money for this. And the unconscious part said, I told you you shouldn't do that. I'm going to mess you up if you don't get out of here. And then you start sweating. You get all of the manifestations of not being able to let it go. So one of the techniques we teach, there's some breathing techniques to just stop. Take a very deep breath, but down in your belly, and then let it out slowly. And all of that feeling dissipates. What's really interesting, you can do this with an audience, and then especially if you're teaching, say, okay, now I want to do this again. I want you to notice something. Notice your own breathing to the audience, and they go, oh my God, I'm doing it too. So when you go, they also do, but they're not aware of it, because breathing is a subconscious activity.
I'm glad you said that, because I'll have to pay more attention to it, because I'm sure, like you said, I probably do inhale and then, like you said, kind of leave it there. Because two other things I've done in my life, breathing has been a very important part of, and one of them was weightlifting, which I'm out of shape now, but the other one was boxing, and both of them, even breathing seems inherently obvious to both of them. You seize up and you stop breathing when you're first starting out, and it's like you literally have to force yourself to breathe.
You just tire yourself out.
Exactly, yeah. And you don't realize that's the reason it happens until you start doing it for a little while, and then it's all of a sudden, man, I can't believe I haven't been breathing. It's like, what a moron, you know?
So no, it means that you're taking care of yourself. It's not that you're a moron. The president is a moron. It's that you're taking care of yourself. Your body is in a stressful place. It's preparing you to get away from it. So you have to develop techniques to deal, and that's where I'm a practitioner of Aikido, and a lot of Aikido is in breathing, very deep breathing, especially at the time of attack. You don't meet the attack and try to overpower it. You redirect the attack in an unexpected direction.
Okay. I've had the chance of, I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the little I got to try it, but one of the guys in the class, he also, his brother was a black belt in Aikido, and he did a couple of things. It was just kind of amazing, because it seems like the people are just going along with it, but it's like you kind of do go along with it, because the alternative is something doesn't go along with it, and it's not as good of an outcome.
You fall down.
Yeah.
It looks fake. And I remember I showed a friend of mine, one of the real masters, and he said, oh, they're just dancing. I said, you grab a hold of that guy. You'll find out how to dance. You'll learn. You have no choice, because they have captured your balance. Doesn't matter how big you are, how strong you are. When you're off balance, you're weightless.
The one the guy did to me was amazing. He like grabbed my hand and then like pulled it towards him, and then basically stepped forward and put it back against the other direction. And it's just, I couldn't believe how off balance going both, forward and backwards that put you. And then next thing you know, you're, flipped. And it's
there are a lot of throws in Aikido called kokyunage, which means breath throws, where you don't even touch the person.
You don't touch the person?
You don't have to touch them.
Really?
Yeah. So if we're neutral and I attack you, I've already put myself off balance.
Okay.
All you have to do is not be there when I arrive. So if I'm trying to grab you and your hand is moving like that, I've got to chase it. And now the other hand just a finger on the shoulder and I'm gone.
Okay.
It's the most wonderful practice.
I would like to learn it sometime. That would be fun. But related to that is the idea that when you were at the school in France, I believe one of the things he taught was actually movement. And related to Aikido and the breathing aspect, again, movement seems as obvious and basic as breathing does. And yet it's something that people teach and people learn. Why is that?
Well, we have a saying, everybody needs to breathe all the time, even when they're on stage.
Okay.
So movement is life. Otherwise, you're just a plant. So if you want to do anything, you have to have intention, and you have to have a way to do it.
Okay.
If you want to communicate with a pencil, you have to learn how to write. That's movement. At the Lecoq School, he teaches what he calls analysis of movement. Do you know what the Fosbury flop is?
Wasn't that the high jump where
Yeah.
you go over the bar backwards?
Exactly.
Okay.
Until then, until Dick Fosbury showed up and did that, no one had ever done it.
Sure.
I believe a guy, I just read that Johnny Mathis, remember the singer?
No.
Johnny Mathis?
Country or?
No, a crooner. Chances are your chances are awfully good. Look
Sorry.
him up. He's a wonderful
Okay.
singer. Just read about him. He was an amazing athlete. He was shorter than 6 feet, and he could jump. He high jumped 6'5", which is unheard of. I mean, just way over his head. The interesting thing about track and field events is they have been optimized over the centuries. So at the Lecoq School, we studied all the classical field events: discus, shot put, javelin, running, all the athletic events, because people have worked on them. If anybody finds a little trick that's a little bit better, 1/10 of a second better, everybody's going to do it immediately.
Okay.
And so the high jump had gotten frozen where it was. Fosbury showed up and everybody went, holy smokes. And by the next year, nobody was doing what was called the Western roll.
Oh.
I was a high jumper in high school. And unfortunately, before Fosbury, I graduated before Fosbury came along, or I might have jumped much higher. So we studied those events, the movement of those events, because it's the study of the human body as a machine to get maximum effort maximum results for minimum effort. And at the end of the second year, we've been studying this and this notion of neutrality. And Lecoq comes in one day when we started to the study of clowning. And he said, first of all, there is no such thing as neutrality. And clowning is minimum effort for maximum results.
All right, you'll have to go into that here in a minute. All right, so again, for movement on a stage, maximal results for minimal effort. Again, that just seems so obvious, and yet it probably is not. Can you give me an example of on the stage a way to incorporate movement? I know it's a little odd question, but
well, anything you do on the stage is movement. So thought precedes movement. Well, there are 3 possible relationships between thought and movement. Thought can precede movement. That's the usual way we do things.
Okay.
So if I am hungry and I'm over here and I go, oh, and I go get something to eat. I don't go, oh, there's something here. So thought precedes movement. There's a wonderful little demonstration that Lecoq would do with a slap to the face. And I'll show you what I mean. So the slap to the face is that, and someone does a fake slap. If thought and movement happen at the same time, they're not very interesting dramatically, and it looks like this.
yeah, no, that was different. Okay.
And it's cold. No, a slap is a physical provocation. So thought is the head turning, and the action is the hand coming up. So a physical reaction to a slap would be like this. Oh, why'd you do that? Okay. And the more interesting one is the intellectual. So the thought precedes the action. It looks like this.
Hey, who was that?
And that carries a very different emotional message. So now you have the possibility in a scene where you get slapped or hit by accident by something of at least those three totally different reactions. And each one carries a very different message to the audience.
That's amazing. I have no theater background, so to me, it's amazing that you can get three different results from basically what amounts to be the same thing with little nuanced differences, probably even more variations than that even.
Absolutely, an infinite number, but it's the study of nuance. And you realize that the emotion, the work, you do the work on stage, the emotion and the story is in the mind and the imagination of the audience. We paint a picture in the mind of the audience, and we're using their paint and we're using their canvas. We're just the brush. We guide this painting, but we have to lead them into it.
So when you do that, using the slap as a method here, when you do that and you perform and you incorporate that, do you ever watch your own performances to see that, oh, maybe I should have done it a little slower, or maybe I should have given it a different feeling?
You can. I really, and because I perform and have performed a lot, I think it's very important to learn to gauge things from the inside. To not have to watch a video to see what's happening. But yeah, you learn an awful lot watching. But when you perform a lot, you'll do it one time this way, you do the next time this way, and you gauge the reaction, and it starts to mold your performance.
Okay. And then switching back to the clown, which was the opposite version of that, can you describe that as to how it differentiates?
Well, I think of clowning as a world in which well, first of all, I see everything as a problem to solve.
Okay.
Or more metaphorically, it's a knot to be unraveled. So walking on stage is fear-inducing. The clown goes, oh, well, that's okay. I'm not afraid. And that immediately, the audience also relaxes. So clowns solve simple problems in complicated ways.
That's a great description, yeah.
And they solve simple, what did I just say?
Simple problems in difficult ways.
And they solve complicated problems in simple ways.
I've heard it referred to as follow the problem. Is that a similar concept, or is that?
Say it again?
I was told follow the problem, I guess, was a different way to state that. So you have a problem and it progressively leads to like other problems.
Oh, absolutely. It's like dominoes falling.
If you've got that mindset.
Knock the first one over.
Related to that, in the performance, like you mentioned, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, there's a video on YouTube of them doing a boxing routine. Again, it's silent, no words. And
them together, I think I'm not sure. I know there's one of Chaplin in a film doing a boxing routine, but I don't think Keaton's the other person, is he?
I'd have to look at YouTube, but I believe it was. I don't have a lot of experience with both of those. I've seen some of their work, and it was amazing because it was really neat to see the expression and the movement. I mean, it was hilarious, their whole entire routine, and yet again, like yours, not a word was said, and it was so funny. It included the movement, and it included what you said, which was to make the simple difficult, or a complex problem simple, and it was hilarious.
There's also, and you see this in both their work, the notion that comedy is a violation of expectation. So you have to set up an expectation and then violate it.
All right.
So he comes out, I'm going to give it to him, and he swings, but the other guy bent over to tie his shoe, and he ends up spinning around and hitting himself.
That's great.
And tragedy is the inevitable.
Yeah, the end result that you knew was going to happen.
I'm going to get you, and he comes out, and he gets him. Okay, show's over.
Oh, in your act, there's this book written by one of the Three Stooges. It was How I Stooged to Conquer, and I believe it was Mo, and I can't remember his full name, but
Mo Howard.
Mo Howard. Okay, he
I'm gonna
was.
write that down. I don't know it.
Ooh, which one?
The book. I never.
Oh, I Stooged to Conquer. Yeah, it was an enjoyable book, and I'm not even a Three Stooges fan, so I'll put it that way. Um, but there's the eye poke that everyone thinks of for the Three Stooges, and it made me laugh because in the book he said that they were taking a break during performing or practicing, and they're playing a card game. Well, apparently the other two of the Stooges were busy cheating. And so they got mad at each other for cheating, right? And so the one of them got up and like poked the other one in the eye, and Mo was laughing so hard that he like fell backwards in his chair and like fell through some glass and ended up injuring himself. But
No wonder.
they thought it was so damn funny that it literally made it into the skit the next night, and then it's been a Three Stooges bit ever since then.
Very nice.
It's a great story, but in relation to your career, have you ever had a serendipitous moment like that something unexpected happened that you just thought was great?
All of them.
Oh,
The
really?
whole show developed that way.
Are you serious?
Well, so much of it. I well, two things. First of all, mentioning the Three Stooges. Do you know the film Jewel of the Nile?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. You know, I played the jewel in that.
It was a great role for you. Yes.
If you notice, the juggling Sufis, who are 5 members of a juggling troupe called the Flying Karamazov Brothers, their Sufi call to each other is that's taken from Three Stooges.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. Go look at it again, and you'll realize that's exactly. They're going.
Oh, that's great.
So I learned rope walking when I was in Paris, slack rope walking.
Okay.
And I started working at outdoor festivals when I first came back from Paris, so in the early 70s. And I got booked at a couple of outdoor fairs, the Pioneer Day fairs in Minneapolis, and then the Renaissance Fair, which kind of the vaudeville of my day, where I worked from 12 to 18 weeks a year doing up to 6 shows a day. And rope walking was my main thing. And I tied a rope up between 2 trees. So at the very beginning, I tied the rope up. Well, that was it. There weren't any other rope walkers working. I would get a huge crowd. I walked the rope. I wasn't very good at it. And I would barely get across and get down. They would clap. And then I'd start juggling. And they'd leave.
Oh, no.
And when I passed the hat, there was nobody left. So I developed a story, a plot that I want to walk this rope, but what's that? And I developed a whole series of things that were improvised at first. There are always people with those umbrella strollers. So I developed little things about picking up a baby. I found out that if a stranger picks up a crying baby, 9 times out of 10, they'll stop crying.
Is it a fear response or?
No, I don't know what they're thinking. I just became a grandfather this week. I'm going to find out.
Oh, very good.
But
Congratulations.
I discovered whenever a baby would cry, and I just got a note. A friend in Spain posted a video of her 12-year-old daughter, beautiful, singing a song. And I congratulated her on such a nice performance. She said, "Do you remember when she was 3 months old, I came to your show? She started crying during the show, and you stopped the show and came out with great concern and picked her up very tenderly, and she stopped crying.
Huh.
And what I would do is then turn to the parent who had the child and go, and then give them back. She said, and she stopped crying, and we stayed for the rest of the show. It was so great. So I discovered that. Well, now the kid's out of the straw. Oh, that's interesting. Here, hold this. And then I get confused. I couldn't remember who the parent was. And I start wandering around with this kid. I didn't know who to give it to. I could balance the stroller on my chin. I started just doing things with things that people had. And then I asked people to bring things. I worked it out with musicians who would come by, and I would do things with them. So I would start to tie the rope up, and oh, that's interesting. And I'd go over and deal with that. So the whole act I became known as the guy with the 5-minute rope walking act who will do anything to avoid doing it. So I got the juggling in early. By the time I walked the rope, I had a huge crowd, but it was a half hour later. The show was over. And at the time, I would always get one of the biggest hats. Where the wisdom of the day was you had to do danger. You had to juggle knives or chainsaws or, eat fire. And I was doing this very gentle, I want to do this, but I don't really want to do it.
Oh, that's amazing, because I think of like the sideshow act type of things, juggling knives, that type of thing, because I think at the end of the day, people are watching it going, oh, he's going to hurt himself, which I don't think is a particularly appealing aspect of the act.
I don't want to watch people hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Even though they're not going to hurt themselves, they do this act 6 times a day.
I know.
There's the threat that they're going to hurt themselves.
Yeah, to me, that takes a lot of fun out of it, particularly like in the circus with the high acts, because I don't ever want to see somebody fall off one of those things and hit the ground. I'd rather see them hit a net and go, okay, fine, I'm going to go do it again.
Yeah, exactly. A net or a safety line. It doesn't take away from the art.
Not at all. In fact, it relieves me of the stress of having to worry about their safety and their well-being. So I appreciate it.
But NASCAR is the largest spectator sport in the world. Car racing. Yeah.
Because we're all hoping they crash, I guess, right?
What are they looking? They're waiting for a crash, because otherwise, you're watching these cars go around and, oh my God.
Yeah.
So there is something that's a thrill that, people who don't have saber-toothed tigers in their lives anymore, they get this adrenaline. They become adrenaline junkies. They say that, and we saw this in that movie about the bomb guy, Zero Dark 30.
Oh.
It's about a bomb defusing specialist who's over in Afghanistan or Iraq. And that's a pretty high tension job. And he comes back. He can't stand it. There's not enough danger in his life. He's addicted to that adrenaline. And they say that happens. It's one of the major mental health issues for soldiers coming back from the war zone. That they are literally, physically addicted to the adrenaline rush, and they're not getting it here.
They need to put more roller coasters in. Something.
Give it to you.
Related to your act, the serendipitous aspect, I love, and it probably evolved in it. When you perform it, does it progress the same way every time, or is there an element of randomness in each show?
No, it's at this point, and I've done it thousands of times. At this point, it's very well set, but it looks like it's never been done before.
Okay. And the reason why I wanted to ask that is because when I think of jugglers, for example, they tend to have a set routine that they've learned and they've drilled and they've trained, and they've got this routine, and it may be very nice, like say Stanislav's tide routine. They have really nice routines, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of improvisation in that. So like, in other words, if I went to see a juggler like 5 nights in a row, I would almost 99.9% of the time see the exact same show every single night.
It'd be like watching a stand-up comedian 5 nights in a row. After the second night, you already know the punchlines.
Okay, I never thought about that for other career fields.
So,
Why is that?
well, it's what the word routine. It's a routine. I was working with a family. It's the parents and their 2 sons, and I suggested, because now the son will just throw the rings to the dad. He catches them all and then juggles them.
Okay.
And you kind of go, well, yeah, they're your rings, of course. So I wrote an exercise for them where mom gives the younger son a box for a present.
Okay.
He opens it and he takes out a ring and he doesn't know what to do with it, so he throws it to his older brother. So first is mom. So what we've got is this emotional sine wave curve. Mom is happy. I'm giving you this present. First son is perplexed. What do I do with this? Second son catches it and goes, oh, I know what to do with it. And he throws it to dad. Dad looks at it and goes, well, that's interesting. I can do something with this. And he does some one ring stuff. In the meantime, they throw the second one. And dad catches this, oh yeah, I can still do, until at this point, you've got this whole emotional roller coaster happening, and they're throwing dad 7 rings, and he's like, what am I going to do with these? And there's this tension of, I don't know if he can do it or not.
Okay.
And mom and both sons are watching him holding their breath. And he does it. And everybody cheers. So much more satisfying than just taking 7 rings out of a box and juggling them.
And I bet, going back to the breath comment from earlier, I bet even the audience was probably holding their breath.
Oh, yes.
When you do it, and he does.
The whole first, I just started a Zoomified workshop on eccentric performing. It's very interesting teaching it. The whole first session and half of the second session is just about breath.
Again, it's an amazing topic. There's a juggler, I believe he's Russian, Pavel Rahil, if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Say again?
The Russian juggler, I think he's Russian, Pavel Rahil. He's got this routine that is really great because, a lot of routines, they tend to progress like 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
And 7's kind of like the finale. His goes up and down. It fluctuates, tight, small, big, multiple balls. It's just a really cool routine. And then it ends kind of like that. But I love the fact that your example was, instead of just coming out there and doing the ring routine that he would have done, it gave it a reason for him being out there and doing it.
And that's the first question. I always ask any performer in the workshop, why are you going on stage?
Thank you, yeah.
I'm going to sweep the floor. Really? Why?
Okay.
That's my number. That's not good enough. You have to come out. Oh, the floor. Hang on just a second. Then you sweep the floor. Things happen. 20 minutes later, you finally finish doing what you came out to do in the first place before you noticed that the floor was dirty.
That's great. I heard in a previous interview of yours, and this is a great story, and it's related to this. Could you tell everyone about the example of the, I think it was a ballerina, if I remember right, and wanting to tie her shoelaces? There was a progression, and it's related to your box example.
Remind me.
Too many interviews.
There's I think I might know what you're thinking about.
Okay.
I've discovered there are tons of little hacks, kitchen hacks, getting dressed hacks. There's this wonderful way of tying a shoe that takes 2 seconds that has a kind of a wow factor. You look at it and go, what? Do it again. And you're always looking for that. And I have an idea that in a clowning world, you should never do anything in an ordinary way. You'll see in one of mine, I simply want to take my sweater off. Well, 5 minutes later, I finally get the sweater off. Do you know the one I'm talking about? It's on
No,
a
I
video.
just remember the one with your longer.
Yeah, has 8 million views. And I didn't post it. The thing got out of control. Anyhow, so we had this thing. Let me see if I can show it to you. Yes, I have a pair of shoes. Hang on.
Okay.
This is kind of funny. Let me see if, can you see the shoe here?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, here's the 2-second shoe tie. Oops, I missed it. I'm going to do it again. There.
Yeah, that's a neat way to do it. Okay.
So this person who was a show that I was directing, at a certain point had to change her shoes.
Okay.
And she would put her shoes on, and all the energy just went out of the show while she bent over and tied her shoe. Well, she happened to be also a classically trained ballet dancer. And I suggested, why don't you figure a way to use that shoe tie? So she first was just doing that, and that was good, but it wasn't great. And I had seen her for something else. She could do the splits. In fact, she could jump in the air and land in the splits.
Ouch.
I said, oh, what would happen? And what she ended up with, she jumps in the air, she gets her shoes on, comes out to center stage, jumps in the air, lands in the splits, turns, bends over at the waist, which is hard enough, and goes, bloop, and then up, turn, on the other side, bloop, and then levitates off the floor to stand in. Her shoes are on, and we've gone, wow, 4 times instead of being bored with someone tying their shoe. So I encourage students to collect things like that. I have another one that's a 2-second t-shirt fold that has the same thing. It looks like garbage. And it really looks like, you know, when you look through a kaleidoscope and it's just random stuff, and then you stop moving, it goes bing, and you there's always this, oh, how did it do that? This t-shirt fold is like that, where you kind of go and it's done. It's really marvelous. So I encourage, in fact, that's the assignment for this week in the Zoom course, to find something, an extraordinary way to do an ordinary thing.
Probably one last question related to that, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've got the down period where the ballerina was tying her shoelaces, and you've improved that and made it more exciting and more interesting. Would you recommend having like kind of an up-down progression to the show rather than like kind of high tension? Or
you can't maintain that level of excitement. That level of excitement is only interesting as you get there. Once you get there, it's a liability.
okay, so you kind of need a breather after that, or that'll be the finale, one of the two.
You have to breathe.
Okay, and if
So
you stay up there,
the end of my show, I've eaten this whole meal of paper napkins.
great act, I love it.
And I finally take the napkin that I had as a bib, and I eat that. And I, almost like you finished a meal and you need a toothpick, and I go, hang on 1 second. So we're done. The audience has clapped. I'm done. Hang on a second. I pull out, there's a little piece of paper comes out, a little piece of one of the, and I've eaten dozens of napkins, and it gets longer and longer and longer, and then it turns red. And then I realized, oh, I drank a glass of wine that was produced magically. And then I stand up, and it just keeps going until it's completely out. Boom! And then a final little burp, and a huge bouquet of flowers pops out. So that's exactly what you described. It's got heights, and then you have to release the tension. So tension without release is your enemy.
Okay. I just say that because I think that relates to so much we do in life. Like if we're giving a presentation or anything, I think you can kind of build and go back and forth rather than try to maintain that level, because otherwise it kind of gets boring if it stays at the same point, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, Mr. Avner, the eccentric. It was great.
Brian, you're a very nice fella, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I hope we get to meet sometime. I'm on a little island in Maine. You're on a little island in Greece. We'll find a place.